Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 9 of the CMU Sport Management Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Sandel, and today I am joined by assistant golf professional and clubhouse manager at Fox Hills Golf and Banquet Center, Hope Warkoczeski. How are you doing today, Hope?
I'm good. How are you, Kyle?
I'm doing great. I wanted to ask you, how is the weather down in southeast Michigan right now? Because it is not great in central Michigan.
Yeah, we got, I'd say probably like 6 inches of snow over the last few days, multiple days, but it's cold, that's for sure. It's single digits. It was below zero for a few days, so it's a typical Michigan weather day, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We had campus was actually closed last week on Friday, which they closed the night before, which is something that I have never experienced at my time at Central so far. So it's definitely been of an eventful last week or so weather-wise here.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So the first question that I usually like to ask everyone that joins the show is, back before you even went to Central Michigan University, what was like the origin behind you coming to CMU and being in sport management?
So I was looking to see what school I wanted to go to, doing tours of universities and campuses around Michigan. Central is actually one of those places my mom forced me to go visit and see if I liked it. I didn't think I was going to be interested at all, but I went on like a CMU and U days, what they used to be called.
Okay.
So you could explore a certain department or school at the university, and one of them was the Health and Human Services. So sport management had to be wrapped into that. So I had no idea sport management existed. I didn't know that was a degree you could get. And I happened to meet some of the professors that were in the program at the time, and they kind of spoke about where some of the alumni was. And so I kind of got hooked and thought, maybe this is something I want to try when it comes to Central. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and I took the intro sport management class, took the intro teaching class, and then decided the sport management was the path I wanted to go to. So.
Gotcha. So was like playing sports something you did as a kid growing up or in high school and stuff?
Yeah, so I played basketball and golf in high school. Then golf kind of became my primary focus my upperclassmen years in high school. So I was always involved in some sort of team activity. So I really love sports. My family's Michigan fans, been around sports a lot with my family and friends growing up. So it was something that was kind of close to me and I really enjoyed.
Yeah, so obviously, like I stated earlier, Fox Hills is where you work at. That's in Plymouth, correct?
Yep, it's in Plymouth. It's kind of halfway between Ann Arbor and Detroit.
Okay, I got you. So the reason that I kind of especially wanted to have you specifically on the podcast is that I always like to get the different perspectives of like that people that went to Central going and working different things. Like working in sports isn't just about working in like basketball, so to say, or working in a big professional league. And I think that working in golf is like a really cool way maybe not a lot of people think of. So for you, when you were at Central, was working in golf kind of always a future goal of yours, or did it just so happen to work out?
Yeah, I've been working at the golf course since I was 16. It was my part-time job during the summer. So I'd always been around it. I played the game. I was a junior member at the course, so I played golf all the time here. I worked here, and I just thought, it's kind of fun. Then you get to Central, and Nick William asks you in like the intro to golf class or intro to sport management class, rather, that what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I was always golf, golf, golf. So it was always, that's my goal. That's what I want to do. Didn't know if that was going to be in a teaching capacity, an operations capacity, what I wanted to do exactly, but I knew I wanted to be in the golf industry. So.
So have you been playing golf since you were pretty young?
Yeah, I started playing when I was about middle school. So I was like 12, I think. 11,
Okay.
12. Mm-hmm.
And I saw that you on your LinkedIn that you coach golf as well.
Yep. So when I was in high school, I played for Salem High School on the golf team there. I was on varsity all 4 years. And then my coach at the time happened to be retiring when I was taking on my full-time job at Fox Hills. And he said, hey, do you want to take over the golf team? So I was able to take over the girls varsity golf team at Salem, the team that I grew up playing on. So that was really cool. So I get to do that during the fall season.
That's
and
awesome.
I teach a little bit during the golf season as well at Fox Hills, just some junior programs and stuff too.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome that it worked out that way for you.
Yeah.
So obviously this time of year it's not golf season, but you can kind of take me through like at Fox Hills, what is your day-to-day look like? And it can be right now, or it can be right now compared to golf season in the summer or spring.
Yeah. So typical Typical is not really, there's not a typical day at the golf
Right.
course, really. I mean, sport is kind of like that too. But during the season, if we have a golf outing or a regular open play day, that kind of varies. But typically during the golf season, I get to the golf course like 5 a.m. in the morning. Some days it's 4:30, some days it's 5:30. And you open the pro shops. You know, we have 3 courses on property. So we have 3 pro shops that need to be opened during the day. So I'll open that up, get set up for staff to come in. So when they come in, we start getting the golf carts out, start making sure everything is stocked, prepared for customers to come in for the day. If it's a golf outing day, it's a little bit more complicated of a setup. So I'm going to come in a little bit earlier. But just during an open play day, I'll get there, set up the shop, staff comes in. Then we kind of start getting rolling. So we'll kind of greet customers for a few hours. Then maybe I'll go off and teach a junior camp program or a clinic. Come back, do some emails, do the typical, you know, admin kind of work that I have to do. I write our staff schedule, so I do a lot of that. And then just kind of do the rounds basically. So checking all of pro shops, make sure staff's good, customers are good, any problems we need to resolve, anything going on. That's kind of like a typical open play day. If there was an
Right.
outing situation, so, you know, shotgun start, everybody's going off on all golf course at the same time. You got hundreds of people here. We have outings that range from like 100 people to 300. So you're just waiting
Wow.
for those golfers to come in. Once they're done playing, you're just kind of watching the clock to see when they're going to come in. When does cleanup have to start? And once they start to come in, we score the events often. So we have to collect all the scorecards. We also have a digital system that collects scores. So we'll be adding all that up, tallying, seeing who's in what place, doing a skin game. So any things like that.
Yep.
And then just monitoring the cleanup of all the golf carts, the golfers coming in. And then kind of sort of pass it off to the food and beverage department for their banquet, whatever else is going to happen after that. During the high school golf season, for me, I usually come in early, do the operation, do the rounds, run the day to day. Then I'm bolting off to coach the high school team for practice for a couple hours
Right.
or heading off to a different golf course to coach an event. So just depends what we're looking at. If it's an outing day, open play day, a lot of varying and moving parts. So
Right. Yeah. And so during those times when there's outings, how often do you guys do outings in the summertime and spring?
often.
Yeah.
We're trying to get away from the weekend outings because, you know, your t-shirt's already packed. You don't really want to send a bunch of people out there.
Right.
But typically Monday through Friday, there's at least one outing going on somewhere on the property. We do a lot of golf outings. This year, I think we were at 129
Oh,
outings.
wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot. A lot of people coming in. We also have like corporate golf clinics, so maybe teaching groups of people. Like we do a woman in manufacturing. They come in, we'll teach them for a few hours. Maybe they'll play. It happens primarily. Outing season is from about May through first week of October because they start
Right.
running into weather situations. But it's all season.
So compared to that very busy and potentially hectic schedule, what is it like this time of year? Is it a lot of like planning for the upcoming season?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Off season in the industry is very much we're prepping our leagues, we're prepping for golf clinics, we're teaching a little bit. Some of the programs that I do with my coworkers, we do a youth program that's for 4 to 7 year olds. So we
Oh,
do a
okay.
lot of that in the winter. Because we can be inside, we have a little indoor
Mhm.
facility to teach. So that's happening a lot in the winter as well. But it is a lot of prep, you know, making sure our training manuals are up to speed, making sure our point of sale system is updated with all correct pricing, prepping our tee sheets for the coming season. Um, Something that we're doing here at Fox Hills is installing TrackMan simulators. So we're going to
Okay.
have 8 simulators that we're
Wow.
prepping for as well. So a lot of construction this off season and a lot of managing that website that's going to go along with the TrackMan simulators. So it's prep in the off season. It's kind of cleaning up, organizing, doing all the things that you didn't get a
Mhm.
chance to during the season that you're now like, okay, playing catch up. So yeah.
So this is something I've never known about golf courses, but do you guys have like a set date that you plan on opening, or is it just kind of like whenever the weather is good enough, it's open time?
Yeah. Yeah. really weather dependent.
Yeah.
Some years it's, you're open at St. Patrick's Day. Last year we didn't open until I think it was the second week of April. So it just depends on what the snow is doing because you can't have frozen ground. It's going to damage your facility if you have golfers out there. Sometimes you can't limit where golfers are driving the carts. So you just have to be really careful
Hmm.
about that as well. But usually you aim for that end of March, beginning of April timeframe. Closing depends on snow.
Right.
We were open 1 year till like Christmas.
Yeah.
Another year we were open just before Thanksgiving, which is typically where we aim for. Just because you've already done a hard season and keeping that up live through November is pretty hard. But
Right.
typically it's like St. Patrick's Day to Thanksgiving kind of
Hmm.
season.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this year was a year that you could have went and golfed out up until Christmas, basically. We didn't get
Yeah.
snow until after the New Year flip, so
It's a long golf season. It's long. We did 100 or sorry, 250,000 rounds this year. So we did a lot of golf.
Oh, wow. That is a crazy number.
Yeah.
So you kind of talked about like some of those camps that you do as well, just other than just like open golf play and tournaments and stuff. Is there any other events that go on at Fox Hills like that are non-golf related?
Yeah, we do lots of weddings, lots of corporate events, lots of bridal showers, baby showers. We do a celebration of life. We do um, lots and lots of golf leagues. So there's always something going on. We
Hmm.
have cornhole leagues. We have it's just endless. We have a
Right.
lot of things going on. Weddings, we have 3 venues. So every weekend, if we really wanted to, we could host up to 10 weddings in a weekend from Friday
Wow.
to Sunday. So something's always happening here,
Hmm.
which is a lot of fun because you do get to see all the moving parts of golf industry can be so much and extend to in other places.
Right.
So, mhm.
Is it tough to handle the golf on top of those other like non-golf related events going on at the same time?
Um, you know, it can be a little bit tough in the transition of sometimes you're flipping from a golf outing to a wedding setting instead. But that just means you have to really work with your food and beverage department, your sales department, and just coordinate and work together. Um, I think we do a really great job here. I
Hmm.
think that I know I've had a little bit of crossover training with food and beverage, so it's been great because I can say, "Hey, I can help out. Like, what do you need? What do you need?" The management staff really has to work together to make that dream for whoever's event come true. There can be long days. You could be opening the building at 4:30 in the morning. You put out a golf outing. Now you're doing the golf outings celebration at the end. Now you're flipping the event venue for a wedding, and now you're going to roll into that and be here till 1 a.m. if you're a food and beverage
Right.
manager. So it's really about having a solid management crew that's going to be able to make that event happen and make sure you're staying on top of your schedule and making sure you're staying on top of that event. Yeah.
Yeah, some long hours for sure.
Yeah.
So you talked about how you've been at like working at Fox Hills since you said since you were 16.
Yeah, I started as a cart kid. So I part-time summer job. I was in it for, free golf because I was in the golf team and just wanted that free practice.
Right.
It was close to home. I was like, this is great. So started as a golf kid, carts kid outside. You're just washing off the golf carts, parking them,
Mhm.
picking the driving range. So you're picking up all those golf balls, washing the golf balls, putting them in the range machines, all the dirty jobs that are kind of hard. And then I worked my way into the pro shop. So I was working that part time, and you get to learn about the POS system. You're selling merchandise, you're greeting more customers, you're on the phones, making sales. So then I kind of moved up from that. And when the time came, my boss was like, hey, you want to work here full time? We've got a position opening up. And I was able to move into that position as a full time manager. And now I'm hiring training staff for all those positions that I used to do. So it's kind of cool that
That's
I get to
cool,
say
yeah.
to a lot of our staff, I say, hey, I wouldn't ask you to do something that I haven't done. Like, trust me, been there, done that. I know.
Yeah, like a full circle moment kinda,
It
yeah.
is. It really is. Yeah.
So when you were at CMU, did you get any other, like, experiences working in just sports in general or maybe other
Yeah.
golf experiences?
Yeah, so when I was at Central, I did a lot. So the Sport Management Association you guys have on campus, I was involved in that. Also involved in the leadership of that eventually. Sport Management Association conference that we run. I was in that, ran the leadership team with that as well. I did an internship in the athletic compliance department on campus. So
Okay.
I was working in student athlete services for first year was just an internship. Then the second year they brought me in to work as a student worker, which was really great experience. It's a little bit different than from your typical event management kind of experience
Right.
as sport management. It was definitely more the rules, interacting with coaches and athletes about what you can, can't do, that kind of thing. It was right before NIL too, so that was kind of fun to see
Yeah, that
how,
probably adds a whole nother curveball into
yeah, the
things.
discussion was coming up just then before I was leaving, so I got to see it kind of start to build and kind of come out. So that was really interesting. I did a lot of internships too, though,
Mhm.
during the summer. I spent a lot of my time doing internships during the summer and working part time. So I was able to do the senior PGA championship in 2018. I did it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got to work on the operations crew in Rochester, New York for that tournament during the summer. I worked for a Golf Digest planner. They help create signage and games and kind of help with event management a little bit for
Mhm.
golf outings. So I did that, sales and marketing. Um, I worked with the basketball team at some point, doing a little bit of marketing as well.
Uh-huh.
Boots on the ground with flyers on campus. There's a brief period where I did CM Life, so the newspaper on
Okay, yep.
campus. Yep, I was working that as same thing, just being the event person that was boots on the ground, passing out flyers at an event, setting up an event. So I was really lucky to have a lot of wide ranges of experience.
Yeah. Very
In
involved, it sounds like.
Yes, very involved. And I think a lot of that was what helped me get where I am, just getting all the kinds of experience I had, meeting a lot of people I met, um, kind of spending my time wisely to get all the experience I could.
Mhm. So when you were at CMU, a part of the sport management program, would you say that you had a favorite part of the program, or at least like looking back, like something that helped you the most, which it could just be all the experience that you got, but
Yeah.
specifically in the program?
I think that the professors were awesome. A lot of them were super supportive. They really helped kind of steer you to where you need to be. Uh, I use Nick Williams as an example, saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, like, what do you want to do? Really, really, what do you want to do?" And okay, you want to do that, make it happen. Same thing with Dr. Ballou and Adler. They were definitely the guys there saying, "Hey, this is what you want to do. Here's how you're going to get there. No wasting your time. This is how you're going to do it." So they were really supportive and very helpful in finding connections for you to get where you need to be, or just kind of being your cheerleader on the sideline, honestly.
Uh-huh.
I really felt a lot of support from the professors and had a good relationship with them too. I also had a lot of great friendships in the program. So a lot of my peers, we're all still connected. A lot of us that are into industry, we talk frequently. Some of us have been to each other's weddings. We're
Oh.
awesome. But yeah, I would say that a lot of those like relationships, connections I built when I was in the program were really helpful, and I felt like that helped me get the experience I needed. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think almost all guests that we bring on here all kind of agree that they all mention the professors at some point, that they were so supportive, and it's all the same people too. The same people that you all mentioned are all still there, and they've been there from the start. And that's something that when I had Dr. Blue on the podcast, he said that was his favorite part about being a part of the program, is that the staff is just so consistent. It's the same people day in and day out, and they all have great relationships and get along. And they have little funny competitiveness between them too, which
oh
is the
yeah,
best.
they do. And it's funny because they always had all their phrases they'd say, and like I still think about all of them. I mean, it's like you'll be like, "Oh, Dr.
Oh,
Blue used
yeah.
to say," or Adler used to say, or Nick Williams used to say, or Dr. Jet, and like all all the things that they used to say, they just like still stick with you, and you're like, "Man, they said I would
Exactly.
remember that, and I did." So really cool.
So were you a 2020 grad?
I was a COVID grad.
Okay, yeah. So I like to ask people this because it was a really crazy time to be in college or to be working in sports. So how was that whole concept of graduating during COVID?
It was hard.
Mhm.
It was difficult in that you kind of had a plan. You're like, oh, this is the job. This is what I'm going to do when I graduate. I got this thing lined up. And then COVID hit and your plans got delayed or whatever happened. For me specifically, it was our spring break. And my parents and I are actually driving through Canada over to Buffalo, New
Oh,
York to find myself an apartment for when I graduated because I went to go work for the Western New York PGA section over there for a year.
okay.
So I was working for the PGA. That was the plan. That's what I was going to do after graduation. We're driving over through Canada to Buffalo with the radio on, and they're canceling March Madness because of COVID. And we're kind of like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
What's this mean? Whatever, not a big deal. We apartment hunt. I come home, don't go back to campus. That was really hard. I think a lot of us, we hadn't said our goodbyes, hadn't like done our wrap up of at
Right.
Central. So you kind of like, oh, okay, I'm stuck at home now, but we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. Like never did. Had to go up there, move my things out of my apartment. Didn't have a graduation ceremony, just a picture next to the TV screen from a virtual one. It was kind of strange. I was supposed to move to Buffalo. I want to say it was, right after graduation, like the second week of
Right.
May, and that didn't happen. I had to
Oh,
wait
no.
until June, I think it was. Luckily, the governor opened up golf in Michigan, so I was able to work part-time at the golf course
Oh,
because my
that's
boss
huge.
was like, "Hey, we're swamped, busy as heck. Will you please come work for while you're home?" I was like, "Awesome, great." So luckily I had that to fall back on, but it was kind of hard to adjust your plans that you had worked so hard to make for post-graduation, and you didn't really get that final wrap up. You just were told to stay home, not to come
Yeah, and
back.
it's just kinda over after that, yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. And it's kind of funny because I do remember when I was working in the compliance office at school, it was pretty early on. It was, I want to say January. The men's basketball team had gone to, I think, Toledo or different schools south,
Mhm.
and they were on the court prepping for a game, and they had to send the team home. They had a guy ran out of the court and goes, "Two students on campus have COVID. We're canceling the game. You guys are going
Oh,
home." So they came home, and everybody in the compliance office is like, "What is this COVID thing? What is this? What is this?" And we're like, "Ah, it's not a big deal. It's not in the US yet." And then March happened. So,
right, and it's kind of
so
a brand new thing that no one knows anything about as
yeah,
well.
so it was kind of crazy to see that progression, and it was hard. It was a hard year, but
Mhm.
I think what was really great was the professors were really supportive in that final semester, that final stretch. A lot of us rallied together as like friends, peers to kind of help each other do that last push when you're working at
Right.
home virtually for your final semester. So that was huge. Again, comes back to professors and your peers being really supportive in the program.
Yeah, exactly, and that was I mean, like you said earlier, one of the things affected most by COVID was the sports industry. I mean, basically every sport was shut down. And that was the time where the golf, they had, like, all you had to do was hit the pin, right, to or when you putt.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
they
didn't
changed
actually
the
have to go
rule.
in.
Didn't want you to touch anything. Didn't want
Yeah,
anybody touching
exactly.
anything, cross contamination. Yeah, you could only have, I think it was, you putting up plastic screens in golf carts so people like
Yeah.
couldn't breathe on each other. And if there's people riding bikes carrying like with their stroller strapped to their bike to put their golf clubs in, it was crazy.
Yeah, so happy we're out of those times for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So obviously, we've talked about like what you enjoyed most when you were at Central. So for current students in the sport management program, what would you be your biggest piece of advice to give as an alumni?
I think the biggest piece of advice is, take advantage of all opportunities you're presented. I think definitely have to make sure you get the most out of your experience. The professors are going to support you the whole way, so make sure you use them as a resource. Make sure you use your peers as resources. Make sure you build those connections and everything. Um, I think that's the biggest thing that I would say is just
Hmm.
make sure you're getting the most out of your experience. I think I was lucky enough to do that with Sport Management Association, with the conference, with internships, with study groups, and whatever else. So I think it's just make sure you're getting the most out of your experience.
Yeah, it's definitely something that a lot of alumni reiterate, and it's very important. So I guess the last thing that I have for you is, we talk about this, early in your first sport management classes, but talking about like the skills you need to work in sports. But I always like to ask the specific skills that the people that are actually working in the sport right now kind of think are most important. So for you, or maybe just for working in golf, not just in sports, what would you say are like the most important skills that you need to succeed in your job?
I would say that a lot of sport management can be event management. It's
Hmm.
a lot of communications, a lot of managing your time wisely. The sport industry, I mean, you're typically working some crazy hours. So you got to make sure that you know how to manage your time, make sure you're managing how you communicate with your coworkers, how you're communicating with your staff, how you're communicating with the public, customers, anything like that. So I would say time management, communication. Um, I think that a lot of what I do on a day to day is, um, I would say, being organized. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so cliche, but it really
But
is.
it's so true though. Yeah.
Yes, it's very cliche, but it's definitely um, you can't not be prepared. I don't want to come in a morning and I'm opening the pro shop and nothing's where it should be, or I don't have the correct scorecards for an outing or things like that. You want to make sure that you're organized so that you're prepared for your day. Unexpected things happen in the sport industry. So, in order to have time for putting out fires, you have to be prepared, be organized. Then you can use your time management skills to put out those fires later.
Right.
Um, so I would say that's huge. I'm definitely in the operations side in the golf industry. I think that when it comes to teaching or being like a coaching professional in the golf industry, that's when you're looking at more skills like communications or customer service. I deal with
Right.
customer service a lot, but I think it's a different type of customer service, which is also important skill to have in the sport industry for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. I think all of those skills are things that we hear in class as well in the sport management program. So it's nice to hear those same things kind of said from someone that is in the industry.
Yeah.
So the last thing I guess I have for you that isn't even really about the program. Did you have a favorite golf course in Mount Pleasant?
In Mount Pleasant, I played polecat a lot.
Yeah.
I played Bucks Run a couple
Yep.
times.
Definitely the nicest courses.
Yes. What's the one with the bowling alley? There's one with that as well.
Riverwood.
Yes, played
Yep.
Riverwood quite a lot.
Yeah, Riverwood is
um,
the definitely like the closest one to
yes.
campus. So
Yeah.
mhm.
And that was fun too. Was a lot of the people in the sport management program. They're golfers too, so you could.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we did a golf outing one year, and so we all get to socialize to that
Oh,
too.
that's cool, yeah. That's
Yeah.
a cool bonding time with
Yeah.
fellow students for sure.
Mhm.
All right, Hope. Well, thank you for joining me on this week's episode of the Sport Management Podcast. I appreciate you coming on. And thank you to everyone listening to episode 9.